What's going on, people? It's your homeboy, the DJ Triple Threat, aka Antoine B, in the place to be. You know, we are live in 2025. It's another episode of Word on the Street, and we are here live with Jay Lee, the producer, straight out of Texas. Give it up, give it up, give it up. So, first things first, with you being from Texas, are you rooting for Kansas City, Philadelphia, or you don't care at all?
I actually don't. I don't care either way.
Okay.
I will say that uh, both of those quarterbacks are from Texas.
Oh, wow.
Both starting quarterbacks.
Okay.
Uh, I actually played football at the University of Oklahoma, so that's my connect to Jalen Hurts.
Wow.
Wanting him to win, but then my brothers, they both played at Texas Tech, and so I still have an affinity for Texas Tech, and so with Patrick Mahomes being from there, and then I think I know, I think six of the players on the Chiefs are from OU, and like three or four on the Eagles are from OU. So, man, I just hope for a good game. That's the best I can say.
The saying this is a rematch. I'm hoping it's a little bit better than last year. Last year's game was good, but you know, it's not a sports talk show. That's another podcast I have. But I
Yes,
think the
sir.
referees are helping them, but that's another conversation.
Yes,
The
sir.
conversation is to let the people know who already know and don't know, to introduce them to you, Jay Lee, the producer. Clearly, it's in the name what you do. So let's start there. Actually, before we get
Yes,
to the
sir.
music, let's talk about your musical journey. What led you into production? And I even see you have production courses on your YouTube and other things like that.
Yeah, man. So it's crazy. Like I can look back now as I look back over my just my entirety of life, just a lot of the influences, things I felt like maybe God was building up in me to bring me to this point. But I guess the starting point that I could identify is, when I was like in junior high, I began writing poetry. And so I'd spend time writing poetry. And kind of one of the ways that I learned how to write poetry was through listening to music. And so I'd lay there in my bed next to my radio, right next to my ear, and I'd actually transcribe the lyrics. And, to me, it was always poetry. I was an R&B head. I was a hip hop head growing up. And so I'd listen to these songs and I would transcribe the lyrics. And, I just thought that I just enjoyed writing. And so when I got to college, I started to learn and teach myself how to play the piano. And then my junior year in college, I came back, I went back home to visit back home. And my best friend from my childhood, Savoy Smith, Icy Studios, shout out. He was producing music, and he showed me this song that he did. And he was like, "Yeah," or it was actually a couple of songs. He was like, "Yeah, I did these." I was like, "What do you mean you did?" Like, what does that mean? And he, showed me the process that he went through to record, to make beats and record music. And I was like, whoa! I was just like so infatuated and just so intrigued by this process. And so I told myself, next time I come back home, I'm gonna be ready to do a song, right? Because he was the only person I knew who had the ability to record songs. So after about a month back at college, I worked diligently at, coming up with these chords and writing these lyrics. And when I went back home, man, I had a couple of songs ready to go and I recorded them. And at that point, I just fell in love, man. And I fell in love with it. And so, I look back now, shoot, 25 years later, and here I am, still producing music. And so even from that point, I played professional ball for a few years, and when I was an undrafted free agent, I got my little signing bonus, and I spent most of that on music equipment. And then every off season from there, man, I was just just trying to be around people, be in studios just to learn how to produce, man. And so when I got done playing ball, I just kind of went full steam ahead and really dove head first into the music and working with different artists, and doing more than just, early on, I can say I was a beat maker, but really, you know, just really honing in on my craft to be an overall producer and not just a beat maker. And so, like I said, look up now, 25 years later, and I'm still at it and still have a deep passion and a love for producing music.
That's dope, man. Now, explain to the people real quick the difference between a beat maker and a producer, because most people kind of put the two in the same basket. When you're right, they are very different.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, a beat maker is exactly what it sounds like. It's somebody who can get in, they got their laptop or they got, studio equipment, whatever it is that they have, and they make beats and they sell those beats. They give those beats to artists to record, or they give those beats to a real producer who can take that beat and make it a song, who can take that beat and turn it into something that's distributable, via streaming and streaming platforms. And so a producer is basically going to be the person who sees everything, whether it's a song, an EP, or an LP, from beginning to end. And so, yes, we do. Some of us, not all of us, some of us have the ability to make beats. Some of us have the ability to compose music. But when you're talking about working with artists and developing artists and, getting them in the studio and, really walking them through the recording process and, giving suggestions and ideas on where the song should go, what it should do, giving the engineer ideas on how to, what effects or how you want the sound, the overall sound for the song or the album to be, working on, I think this is a lost art, is like, how do we format the songs on the album? Like, what is that playlist going to look like? How does it flow well? Should it tell a story? I believe it should. And so, just everything that goes into producing an album, from the writing to the recording, to the mixing, to the editing, to the distribution. That's what a music producer in their essence is.
That's dope. So going from Jay Lee the beat maker to Jay Lee the producer, going from studio to studio, how did that lead you to collaborate, meeting with different artists and collaborating with them, thus into having your first release in 2012 or 2012?
Yeah, man. So it was actually, like I said, when I got done playing ball, man, I just kind of dove head first into working. And, like I try to, like some of the young producers and artists that I work with now, I try to uh, make sure they understand this point that, like, man, my deal was I just wanted to get better. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, there was like right at the beginning, you have that itch of like, man, I want to get paid for this, right? But then I quickly learned, man, like to grow in my craft is going to be um, much more beneficial than just to try to get paid off of every little track that I do, right? And so I started just working with people just so I can work with them, and really that's kind of what's carried me through my entire music production career, and something that has become what I'd consider one of my core values as a producer, is working with people for free. Like there's a lot of artists that I work with for free just because there's, especially in the Christian space, right? There's so many dope artists out there who really don't know what they're doing when it comes to recording. They have a great idea, they have a great vision for their brand and for their music. But maybe they don't have the resources, whether it's financial resources or studio resources or connection resources to get that music out. And so I've kind of taken that on as one of my core values, is to work with people for free. If I believe in you and the music that you're doing, then that's what I do. And so that's what I started off doing early, knowing that eventually the money would come. And then obviously that was pre-streaming.
Long time ago in the
So,
Stone Age, vinyl
right,
disc and frisbee
right,
CDs. Kids won't know what those are. And cassette tapes,
exactly.
like cassette. What? So
A
yeah,
cassette. Yeah, I had a conversation at work the other day with some people about cassettes, and I was like, "You don't even know what a mixtape is, do you?" And they was like, "Of course I know what a mixtape is." I was like, "You think about Lil Wayne, ain't you? You think about Lil Wayne? No, that ain't a mixtape. Let me tell you what an original mixtape was." You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, man, like that's how I started, and really it was in the process of just working with different artists, and helping them develop their projects that I started to learn all of the aspects of music production. For like I said, I was making beats. I had all the equipment to make beats, and I was hitting record. You know what I'm saying, on Pro Tools and getting them recorded. Now, like, how do we edit? Like, what's the editing process like after you've gotten the recording? All right, now how do we mix it? Like, what's going to be your your workflow for mixing, and how do you get a punchy sound versus a sound with just more bottom? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you work through all of that to understand what it is that you're trying to do? And one of the things that I've learned and I try to teach is, there are no rules, but you have to know the rules in order to break the rules. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, like, having a fundamental baseline understanding of compression and EQing and dynamic effects and all of that kind of stuff, then you can start to break the rules and start to create your own sound and do all of that. And so and just through that process of working with artists on a daily basis, day in and day out, multiple artists, learning different personalities, learning how to lead and coach and direct and give certain cues to get certain things, like that was all a part of it. And so yeah, like I said, 25 years later, man, I sit here today loving what I do and actually just looking for more people to work with.
And speaking of artists, you have worked with major names like Sean C. Johnson.
Yeah.
That brother's super talented rapper, singer, served the neo soul sound as well. Adam and Kizzy, I don't think too many people even know about them, but
Man.
very talented husband and wife duo, correct?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Cam, who I
Yep.
didn't realize you did an album with Cam. I thought Cam retired from music until I saw you did a whole album with him. So explain to the people even how working with them has elevated your sound, one, and even just transformed your journey within music as a music producer and beyond.
Yeah, man, it's funny. Those names in particular are some of the most instrumental people that have influenced me as a music producer. And so Sean, he's actually one of my best friends, right? Known Sean for a long time. And we met through music. That's how we first met and got connected. But to this day, we're best friends. I was the best man in his wedding back in September, and just really close friends. But man, funny enough, so me and Sean, we joke about this even to this day, because when we first met, I think it was back in 2007 when me and Sean first met. I loved his music. This was, after his first album release, Simply a Vessel Volume 1. And I loved his music. And I was like, man, I want to work with this dude. And again, back then, it was like, all right, I'll do a beat. I'll send him a beat and then see what he think. Man, it was years on end. Sean would not even respond to the beats that I sent him. And I'm just like, what in the world? And I think it was right before he released Volume 3 of Simply a Vessel. Maybe it was volume. Yeah, it was volume 3. Before that, it was after Volume 2. I was like, man, he gonna use some of my tracks. And so literally, no lie, man, it was probably 5 or 6 years that every time I went to the studio, I was like, I'm doing the track for Sean that Sean is gonna like. And so, like, that whole neo soul sound, that I was chasing for all of those years, like that's where that came from, man. Is really chasing, Sean C. Johnson, because I wanted him to I wanted him to work with me. I wanted him to record one of my songs. I wanted to do a whole album with him. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was my whole deal. And then with Adam and Kizzy, a lot of people don't know this about Adam. Most people know him in one of the two great talents that he has, that he's an MC, a super dope MC. Like, he can rap, he got bars for days, right? And then on the other hand, he's also an extremely talented and working jazz pianist. And so, like, the conversations and moments of, working with Adam and Kizzy on their work, I learned so much from a musical standpoint in dealing with Adam. And then Kizzy, she's just such she's a classically trained vocalist who's an R&B head like me. And so, like, learning just through the process, I think my my music acumen grew so much from working with them on a daily basis. And then with Cam, man, it was similar that we I just learned from the OG, man. Like, and here's the deal about Cam, man. Like, a lot of people don't understand, man. Like, Cam, what he reminds me of is that old school recording artist. Like, he gonna get in the studio, he gonna grind it out. You know what I'm saying? It ain't gonna be none of this. Well, shoot, let me just vibe with it, and then maybe come back next week and still vibe. It's like, no, Cam is gonna work, man. He is a worker, bro. He gets in there, he lays down vocals, he stacks vocals, he gets in, records, and it's like, we're not leaving here until it gets done. You know what I'm saying? And so all of them have contributed so much. And what's crazy is that all of them, how I got connected to all of them at one point were going to the same church.
Oh, wow.
We were all members at the same church, which is the church Adam's dad pastors. And so it's called Cross of Calvary in Oklahoma City. Like, we were all going to the same church at one point. And I'm sitting there, I remember one time, because I ran sound there, and I'm looking on stage doing worship, and it's Adam on keys, Sean, Kizzy, and Cam all singing with the praise team. And I'm just like, this little old church in Southside Oklahoma City with this unbelievable talent in this church. It was crazy, man. So yeah, those are my people, man.
And yo, I would have swore that Shanti Johnson was from New York. I always said I was from NYC. His whole sound and swag is New York.
Yeah.
I got Cameron's ATL because he did a lot of stuff with Lecrae.
Yep.
Baraka, and all the old school Reach Camp.
Yep.
And Adam and Kizzy, I didn't know where they were from. I just liked their sound. So that's a funny story. That
they're all right here in Oklahoma City, bro. Every last one of them.
Never known.
Yeah,
that.
Sean, Sean is a military brat, so he's kind of from everywhere. But Cam, Adam, and Kizzy, they born and raised in Oklahoma City.
Wow. And congrats to Sean, by the way, on that on him getting married last September.
I know, right? How about that, man?
I remember he had that whole song. You know what song I'm talking about? Lord, please catch, or something like that.
Yep.
Like, not falling in love with the wrong woman. Then the whole video with this girl that's rejected him.
Standing outside with the speaker over.
Exactly. So to hear him get married from that song, Lord Save Me, that song.
Yep.
So from Lord Save Me to He Saved the Marriage.
Absolutely.
That's
absolutely.
Dope. So you went from neo soul to hip hop sound with The Say to Inspire Me to Music Box to 24 Hour, which released in 2019. Now your latest one, The Complete Devotion, which is Afrobeat, which you have the new video that came out 3 months ago, and you have one that came out a month ago. Explain to people what got you into Afrobeat this time around for your sound, and why do an audio devotion with Afrobeat as the backdrop.
Yeah, man. So it's funny, man. Like, you really don't think about this until you ask certain questions like that. But, kind of as I look back over my music production career, it really has been defined on me chasing certain sounds. And I'm chasing those sounds because of what I like and what I'm going through at that time. And so, like I said, those neo soul sounds was, really me chasing that sound, to work with Sean C. Johnson, inspired me. That was inspired by me listening to Black Radio by the name is slipping my mind, but
I know you're talking about.
Yeah, I got so many names running through my head right now, but anyway, and then Music Box was really me, chasing a really I guess traditional soulful neo soul R&B sound, right? And then with Afro beats, man. So back in January of 2023, well, no, it goes back further than that. Back in 2016, when I first saw the movie Black Panther, and I listened to the soundtrack by Kendrick Lamar. It had a song on there with an artist named Sjava, Sjava, and I loved the song. Didn't understand a word he was saying because it was in an African language. At the time, I didn't know what it was, but I started listening to Java's albums, his own personal albums. And I love this dude. Like, he's one of my favorite artists, man. Again, I didn't understand anything he was saying, but then through features that he had on his album, it just really started to expand my listening of a lot of African style music. And come to find out, all of these artists are from South Africa that I'm listening to. And that's when I started to, I was introduced to this style of music called Amapiano. And I started listening to Amapiano music, and, really not being able to distinguish the difference at the time between Amapiano and Afrobeats. Because, this is the same time that Burna Boy was starting to pop, and I'm struggling with names right now.
Wizkid.
Yeah, Wizkid. But then what's the other one that had the big song? I'm unavailable. They can't see me.
Oh, that song too.
With Chris Brown. And
yep.
Anyway, I started to, all of it, that started to get large. And so all I knew was it was music coming out of Africa, and couldn't really distinguish the difference between the two. Well, I'll say all of that to say that in my day-to-day job that I work, part of my responsibility is building out programming for student athletes where, we would travel overseas and do mission trips. Okay. And so when I sat down with the head coach to discuss this, I had in my mind, I was like, I want to go to South Africa just because of the connection that I've had with the music. Right. And so we sit down and I'm like, yeah, I think, we should do 2 trips a year, one over spring break, and then one in the summertime where we can go a little bit further away, don't have to stay on the continent, but we got a little more time to go away, so on and so forth. And so he's like, yeah, I think that'd be a great idea. I think somewhere like South Africa. And I was like, you know what? That's a great idea. With that being said, in January of 2023, took a trip to South Africa, and it changed me, bro. It like blew me away, man. The people there, the culture, the beauty of the country, all of those things, right? And then just from a spiritual standpoint, it like affected me so deeply, like so like that's the most I've been affected. At the time I was, 42 years old, and that was the most impact any one experience had ever had on me. And so in getting to know the people, in getting to understand and now like being ingratiated into the culture, and starting to understand, there is a vast difference between Amapiano and Afrobeats, and starting to understand that. And I met a DJ in South Africa who I started working with because he was an Amapiano producer as well. And so we started working together and collabing on some things. And then it like clicked, because even up to that point, from like 2018, maybe 19, up to 2023, I had been trying to do some music, like trying to learn Afrobeats and Amapiano. But now I go back and listen to it, I'm like, I was so far off, like I wasn't hitting the mark. And so it was when I started to work with DJ Z Superstar, is his name. When I started working with him, man, that's when it just kind of just like my mind opened up. And of course, being there with the culture, hearing it in context in country, it just opened up my mind, man. And so I really wanted to, do an Afrobeat / Amapiano album. But then just from the content, the messaging of it, that really came just from the spiritual experience that I was having. And I believe it did start in that trip to South Africa, man. And just God just started doing some things in me, man, and just started challenging me on my devotion more than anything. And so, as I'm earnestly seeking God, and I'm truly like trying to see, like, God, what are you trying to show me? He told me 2 things, man. He said that I want you to be completely devoted to me, and I want you to find total satisfaction in me. And so that's really where my heart was throughout this album. It was like a lesson of what I was going through, what God was showing me on my complete devotion. Well, what does that even mean, God? Like, what does being completely devoted mean to you? And that's just being every opportunity you get to be in communion and fellowship with the Lord, in prayer and reading his word, and then just shutting up and letting him speak to you. And then just finding total satisfaction in that. And even more so as I continue to seek God on what total satisfaction looks like, it was like be totally satisfied in your obedience to me. So whatever it is that I tell you to do, wherever I point you to go, regardless, like you're satisfied just from saying yes, just from saying, yes, Lord, I'll do it, regardless of the circumstance, regardless of the outcome. Like I'm satisfied just that I said yes and that I was obedient. And so that's really the heart behind the album, and a lot of the messaging is just, just like pouring your complete heart into your devotion to God and being satisfied in that.
That's dope, man. And as we wrap up this interview, let's definitely land the plane on that point. What led you to your faith in Christ? What's something you want to leave to the people, whether it's a life scripture or even part of your testimony, just to encourage them, just something beyond the music and the why behind the music.
Yeah, man. So just, as far as my faith goes, it was really just, I grew up in a faith-based household, in the church. I was in the church all the time. But just like we all have to do, we have to figure it out for ourselves. And so, like there's times in my life that I look back and I'm ashamed of, but the thing that I can say is when I look back over it is just God's grace, man. Like for him always, like I've always had a heart that had a deep conviction to do things that are pleasing to God, in my love to God, in my love to people. And so even, when I think back of those shameful moments, it was always this tug on my spirit, like, nah, bro, that ain't right. That ain't it. And so to know that God has always just been there to pull me out of that, to get me to where I am today, to a point where I feel like I'm completely devoted, you know what I'm saying? And I'm, obviously we always have our flesh pulling us to these other desires. But really, man, just trying to find myself and constantly challenging myself to be devoted to him. And as an encouragement, I'll give part of my testimony throughout this transition, which also has a part to do with the title of it and the opening song on the album, "Oh, How Precious Is His Presence." So when God was stirring my heart through all of this experience in South Africa and everything that it meant to me, I came across this video on TikTok of a pastor, and he was talking about how he believes that all the friends of God in the Bible consistently spend time alone with God, right? And he's just talking about, he's like, like that time with God alone, that alone time with God is sacred, and it's sacred because it cost the son his life, right? And so I don't know why, but it was the way that he said it. It just like sent my mind down this rabbit hole to the point of understanding that there was like after the fall, like there was thousands of years that humanity, that human beings didn't have direct access to God unless he presented himself to them, right? Like even when he tried to give himself to the people, and they were like, actually we're gonna take Moses instead, right? But we didn't have access to God, but in all of his providence and his, like the way that he orchestrated things according to his eternal plan, like he gave us his son. And because of the life, the death, and the resurrection of his son, we now have access to the Father at all times. Like there was a period that we didn't have that, right? And so like, why would we not, understanding that and understanding the circumstances that it took to get us to that point back in fellowship with the Lord, why would we not take every opportunity to be in the presence of God and remain in the presence of God, right? And so like, to me, man, that's my encouragement, because I've seen the difference that it's made in my life, is to make a very intentional point in our lives to devote our lives to God, not a part of our lives, not just this section or this category of our life, but our entire life. And the only way we can do that is by being intentional about the time that we spend with him, right? Yeah, we're going to learn the heart of God. We're going to understand and learn the ways of God through his word. But how we're going to learn about what God's purpose is for us and what God's purpose is for his people is through spending that time with him, and I remember growing up in the church and they're trying to teach you about prayer and what prayer is. And it's just like a conversation, right? It's a conversation with God. And it's like, okay, cool. But the only thing I ever heard was us talking to him. Like, when do we get to the point where we just shut up, right? It's a conversation is two ways, right? So we shut up and we let him speak to us. And we have, like, sometimes you got to dig in deep and you might sit there for 2 hours just for one word. But coming in with the broken spirit and a contrite heart, in order to earnestly seek him, and he will reveal himself to you. He will direct you, man. He will start revealing things to you that are life changing and mind altering, right? And so that's my encouragement, man. It's like, stop listening to this preacher, that preacher, and the other. Stop listening to the news. Like, shut all of that off, man, and get in your word and get in prayer time. And then as you pray, make sure you spend time in quiet to hear his voice, and it will change everything about your life.
Amen. I agree with all of that. Nothing I can even add to that. That's amazing, dude. So, God bless you and everything you do. People,
Appreciate it.
it's a new project out now, or is it coming out soon?
No, it's out right now. Complete devotion on all streaming platforms. And then also, I got to plug this, man. Is I actually released a devotional with the album, and so for every song on the album, I kind of dedicated a month in this devotional to one song on the album. As an example, the first song on the album is called "Oh How Precious Is His Presence." Well, in the devotion, all of January is dedicated to every day is a scripture and a practical application of how like the importance of staying in it, being in his presence and staying in his presence. And then February, starting today, is a whole nother another song dedicated to that, man, because my heart behind that was just wanting people to have a similar experience that I had as I built this project. Is like, man, God showed me so much, and I want people to have that. But listening to it just in song, it doesn't quite do it. And so getting into his word is really what brings that out. And so I got a devotional. It's called The Complete Devotional, and it's available on Amazon as an ebook or paperback. And then it's also on the YouVersion Bible app. If you just search Josh Norman, you'll be able to find that as a plan on the YouVersion Bible app.
Yo, that's amazing. I mean, I can ask me more questions, but I think
Yeah.
less is more, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
People
Appreciate you, man.
definitely support his music, support the ministry, get the devotional. I already heard some of the songs. They have blessed me, not just because I love Afrobeat and my piano, but the messaging and just the worship and everything. It's really blessed
Amen.
me from the stuff I've heard, man. So, I mean,
Praise
we'll
God.
continue to use you in all your music, and we'll continue to support your music right here on the platform. Ladies and
Appreciate you, brother. I
gentlemen,
really do, man.
hey, I appreciate you. Jay Lee, the producer, y'all. Give it up.